Very often, we go through our days weighed down by worries, constantly anxious about what might go wrong and trying desperately to control every detail of life. This restless state of mind drains our energy and clouds our clarity, making it difficult to see straightforward solutions. But when we learn to let go of excessive concern, space opens up for life to flow in a lighter, more natural way. Buddhism reminds us that trusting the rhythm of reality brings balance and inner strength. Instead of resisting what cannot be controlled, we cultivate stillness and wisdom, choosing to act wisely at the right moment. In this talk, you'll discover 10 Buddhist teachings that can help release unnecessary worry. Teaching 1. Accepting impermanence. Life resembles a river that never stops moving. At every instant, things around us are transforming, whether we notice it or not. Trees grow, seasons change, bodies age, emotions renew. Accepting impermanence is not supposed to feel gloomy. Rather, it's an invitation to recognize the beauty contained in every passing moment. Understanding that nothing lasts forever helps us value what is happening now. So much of our suffering comes from trying to freeze moments in place. We want joy to last endlessly, relationships to never alter, success to stay frozen in time. Yet reality has its own current that cannot be held still. It's like attempting to hold water tightly in your hands. The more you squeeze, the faster it runs out. Buddhism teaches that acknowledging impermanence brings peace. This recognition not only allows us to enjoy pleasant times, but also gives resilience in facing pain. Difficult phases eventually pass, just like blossoms eventually fade. Knowing this nurtures patience and the quiet confidence that brighter days always return. This truth also softens how we treat ourselves. Our thoughts, feelings, and perspectives are constantly shifting as we learn and grow. There's no obligation to remain the same as yesterday. We are works in progress. Through this lens, each smile, each meeting, each experience feels precious, precisely because it will not repeat. What once felt ordinary suddenly turns into a gift. Nature persistently reminds us of impermanence through its cycles. The sun rises and sets, the moon waxes and wanes, the rain falls, and the sky becomes clear again. Trying to resist these natural forces simply becomes a heavy burden. Releasing them, however, unlocks inner freedom, like opening your palm and allowing life to move unobstructed. Acceptance of impermanence is not resignation. On the contrary, it motivates conscious living. When time feels finite, we choose more carefully where we place focus and energy, avoiding distraction or futile attachment. This also deepens compassion. If nothing is permanent, even the smallest act of kindness takes on profound significance. Sit quietly in meditation and watch your breath. Each inhalation and exhalation vanishes the moment it occurs. From this simple rhythm, you see clearly, everything is in constant transformation. Peace arises when we embrace that truth. Teaching 2. Living without rigid expectations. Expectations act like invisible chains, keeping the mind confined. When we insist that events must unfold according to a specific plan, restlessness and disappointment quickly build. To live without expectations doesn't mean abandoning dreams or goals. It means loosening our grip and giving life the chance to surprise us. We suffer countless times over situations that haven't even happened simply because we scripted them in our minds. We anticipate outcomes, imagine conversations, construct entire futures. Then, when reality doesn't match our mental script, emptiness and frustration appear. The pain, in fact, does not come from what is happening, but from what we'd imagined. From the Buddhist view, expectations are a subtle form of attachment. They feed the illusion that we command the future. But the truth is that life will unfold whether or not it matches our designs. What we can do is act with full effort in the present without making results the tyrants of our inner peace. Shifting the focus in this way transforms the journey itself, not only the destination. Each step on the path acquires beauty, instead of worth being reserved exclusively for the finish line. Releasing expectations helps us rediscover gratitude. Often, what arrives may be different than imagined, but nonetheless valuable, carrying its own meaning and opportunities for growth. In relationships, this insight is liberating. Many conflicts come from expecting others to behave, speak, or respond according to our desires. But when we allow people to be themselves, we foster respect and harmony. Our bonds become less strained and more genuine. To practice this daily, begin simple. Start the morning not by predicting how it should unfold, but by staying open to whatever emerges. During a conversation, listen without expecting specific replies. These tiny acts reduce anxiety and bring authenticity. They also teach humility. We gradually recognize that absolute control is impossible. Meditation further strengthens this awareness. Sit still and notice how expectations silently sneak into thoughts. Observe them, let them pass, watch them dissolve. In doing so, the mind trains itself to live lighter and freer. Peace is possible when we unhook ourselves from futures that don't exist yet. Teaching 3. Detaching from thoughts. Like passing clouds across an open sky, thoughts arise and vanish continuously. They shift shape, drift, and disappear beyond our control. Yet we often mistake them for solid truths or identity. We confuse having a thought with being the thought. When we over-identify with mental noise, we become tangled in inner storytelling. Memories, worries, fears occupy the stage of mind, making them seem more real than present life. This identification intensifies anxiety. Learning to detach from thoughts is like loosening a choking rope. It gives back fresh air and freedom. Buddhism compares the mind to a lake. When the waters are stirred, it's impossible to see the depths clearly. When calm, clarity emerges naturally. Likewise, if we learn to watch thoughts without following them, we regain this sense of tranquility. They are visitors, not rulers. Paradoxically, struggling to push thoughts away often makes them grow stronger. The more you fight, the more power they gain. Letting them arrive and leave freely weakens their hold. This gentle observation is far more effective than resistance. Mindfulness is an invaluable ally here. By focusing gently on the breath, for instance, we notice the tendency of the mind to chase the past or rush toward the future, but we don't need to go with it. Instead, we settle back in the present, where awareness watches but doesn't cling. Once we realize we are the sky and not the clouds, a profound peace arises. Thoughts come, but they no longer define us. We awaken to being the witness, the awareness that perceives. This change improves our relationships too. Many quarrels start from interpretations and imagined narratives repeated in our minds. By pausing, observing, and not reacting immediately, we allow compassion and wisdom to respond instead of defensiveness. This doesn't mean abandoning critical thinking. Thought is a tool, useful, creative, necessary. The problem only occurs when we mistake it for the ultimate truth. With awareness, we can use it wisely rather than be enslaved by it. In daily life, the practice can be simple. Take a mindful walk, notice the sound of birds, feel the body breathing. These tiny steps affirm that life expands far beyond mental chatter. In that expansion, serenity appears. Formal meditation deepens the process. Each time you realize a thought arises and you gently return to the here and now, you strengthen the skill of letting go. Little by little, the identity with endless narratives dissolves. Detaching from thoughts reveals a natural freedom. You no longer are subject to every story your mind invents. Instead, you live lighter, with more clarity, calm, and presence. Teaching 4. Focus on what is within your power. A considerable amount of our frustration arises from trying to control what was never in our hands to begin with. We want to shape other people's behavior, foresee the future, or prevent natural change from occurring. Inevitably, this endless battle leaves us drained. When we put attention only on what truly depends on us, a surprising calmness takes place. Buddhism explains that life is made up of causes and conditions. Some of these we can influence, others remain outside our domain. The real wisdom lies in distinguishing between them. This doesn't mean giving up. It means redirecting our limited energy where it can be effective. Concentrating on what is under our control transforms our daily choices. We cannot command every circumstance, but we can always decide how to speak, how to respond, how to act. This recognition is liberating because it reminds us that even in difficult times, a small corner of freedom is ours. Too often we invest emotional energy in attempting to reshape others. We hope they will think like us, make decisions according to our wishes, or adopt our pace. This mental struggle builds only exhaustion. Accepting that each person follows their own path releases us. Ultimately, it creates more balanced interactions, with less friction. This understanding also decreases anxiety. Instead of spinning hypothetical scenarios about what might happen, we return to the present, where our ability to act actually lives. The future is an echo of present choices, not something we can bend directly. When faced with storms, this mindset helps us look for alternatives within reach, building resilience. Focusing on the controllable makes life simpler and more efficient. We stop wasting time on illusions of omnipotence and instead invest in what genuinely matters. Far from passivity, this approach is responsibility in action. We assume what is our task and release what belongs to the larger flow of life. The more we do this, the lighter we feel. Meditation mirrors this truth. Observe the breath. We cannot control the air that already entered or the one not yet taken, but we can inhabit this inhalation and this exhalation now. This exercise reinforces that our power exists in the present, not in imaginary control of everything else. Think of it as rowing a canoe in a river. We do not alter the current, yet we can decide how to hold the oars, where to direct the boat, and how to adapt to obstacles. Peace doesn't come from commanding the river's flow. It comes from skillfully navigating it with awareness. Teaching 5. Cultivating gratitude. Gratitude is like a soft light shining through cloudy days. Even amid difficulties, when we train ourselves to notice what we already have, our entire perspective changes. Challenges don't disappear, but we suddenly see quiet treasures that were supporting us all along. The mind tends to dwell on absence. More success, more recognition, more things. This constant hunger creates dissatisfaction. Gratitude flips the lens, reminding us of what is already here. This shift brings a fullness that no external possession can truly supply. Buddhism frequently reminds us that everything is transient, including opportunities and encounters. Gratitude arises when we realize that each moment is unrepeatable. Saying thank you is less about manners and more about connecting with life at a deeper level. Practicing gratitude transforms relationships as well. When people feel appreciated, their hearts open. Simple words of thanks can strengthen bonds, turning them warmer and more resilient. Gratitude also nurtures contentment. Happiness is no longer postponed until some bigger milestone, but can be tasted in small gestures. A smile, a kind hand, the chance to breathe. It is equally useful during hardship. Even then, something remains to be acknowledged. A lesson learned, a friendly presence, the inner strength that carried us through. Seeing this gives courage and renews hope. On the practical side, gratitude is trained in very small habits, waking and recognizing the gift of a new day, cherishing the food that nourishes the body, valuing the listening ear during conversation. Over time, we see that gratitude doesn't rely on extraordinary events. It blossoms in the ordinary moments we often overlook. Meditation enhances this practice by closing the eyes and quietly bringing to mind people, experiences, or even challenges. Gratitude expands. This softens envy or comparison as we shift focus from what others have to what is already abundant in our own lives. Grateful people radiate a calm energy that touches others. It becomes contagious. In this sense, gratitude is not only a personal attitude, but an act of collective healing, cultivating joy around us as surely as within us. Teaching 6. Acceptance of what cannot be changed. A vast portion of human suffering comes from resisting the inevitable. We long for circumstances to adapt to our wishes, for people to behave according to our script, for time to halt. However, the more we rebel against reality's immovable elements, the more painful life feels. Recognizing what cannot be altered is not weakness. It is an act of wisdom and self-care. The Buddhist lens reminds us that countless events stand outside our hands entirely. The passing of years, the death of loved ones, the cycles of nature, or choices others make. Fighting against these laws of existence is like commanding the ocean tide to stop. Our energy is wasted and frustration multiplies. Acceptance, in contrast, does not mean approval or passive resignation. It means seeing reality without blindfolds. From this clarity, we can respond with greater balance. Where resistance drains us, acceptance conserves energy for what is truly possible. It's as if we were sailors in the wind. We can't block the direction of the breeze, yet we can adjust the sails and steer accordingly. This adaptation allows us to move forward without senseless struggle. Acceptance grants flexibility, like bamboo bending under gusts, but not breaking. That flexibility is resilience. In daily life, acceptance manifests in simple scenes. Acknowledging traffic is delayed rather than fuming at it. Realizing that rain is part of life and not an enemy. Understanding that people differ in pace and we cannot rush them. These minor acts already lighten emotional burdens. Meditation demonstrates acceptance naturally. Thoughts and feelings appear and fade. We don't control their coming. We witness their impermanence. This direct experience teaches us the futility of endless resistance. Peace arises the moment we embrace what is. This perspective even helps in loss. Grief may be deep, yet acceptance eventually transforms it from heavy resistance into tender healing. Over time, clarity grows. We cannot demand reality to follow our script, but we can adapt and live wisely through it. Teaching 7. Living with compassion. To live with compassion is to recognize that others share the same essence that animates us. Everyone carries pains and joys, fears and longings. When the heart truly sees this, our actions change. Compassion stops being an abstract sentiment and becomes a way of life-shaping words, gestures and decisions. It's important not to confuse compassion with pity. Pity is looking down on another. True compassion is feeling with, entering the shared human vulnerability with respect. This builds genuine bridges between people, removing barriers of pride and indifference. In Buddhism, compassion is seen as one of the foundations for peace, both individually and collectively. Every small act of kindness ripples outward in ways we may never fully know. Compassion begins within. Often we are our own harshest critics, demanding perfection and punishing mistakes. Learning self-kindness is the necessary first step. When we accept our own imperfection with gentleness, extending care to others becomes natural. In daily life, compassion appears through listening without interruption, helping without expecting returns, forgiving mistakes. Such behaviors are simple yet transformative. They lighten the burdens not only of those we support, but also of our own hearts. Compassion also shifts the way we face conflict. Anger and pride widen the gap, but seeing the pain that lies behind harsh words enables a wiser response. Not weak, but firm and humane. True compassion requires courage. It may be easier to turn away from suffering or retreat into indifference, but the strongest choice is to open the heart, even if that means vulnerability. Meditation can nurture this quality through practices like extending loving wishes toward ourselves, then toward others, then eventually to all beings. Over time, this rewires the heart to experience kinship with everyone, dissolving the illusion of separation. Far from weakness, compassion is a silent strength. It demands inner discipline to resist selfish impulses and steady courage to remain kind even under difficulty. This strength heals, builds, and connects. Living with compassion, we become sources of peace, not just for ourselves, but for the wider world. We don't need dramatic acts to do this. Small moments of deliberate kindness each day ripple outward, crafting a collective atmosphere of trust and warmth. Teaching 8. Practicing detachment. Detachment is one of the deepest gateways to true inner freedom. The mind has a peculiar tendency. It clings either to what has already passed or to what has not yet arrived. In this clinging, we lose the present moment, which is the only place life actually unfolds. Cultivating detachment breaks those invisible chains, allowing us to move more freely through existence. The past is like a book already written. We can revisit its chapters to learn lessons, but no revision will change the words printed there. Yet many people constantly reread painful lines, carrying resentment or regret. This habit produces unnecessary suffering, since we cannot rewrite what has already occurred. Detaching from the past means keeping insights but releasing weight. The same problem arises with the future. It has not yet blossomed. It is only possibility and uncertainty. The more rigidly we cling to expectations and plans, the more anxious we become. We try to control what simply has not appeared. Detachment helps us trust the unfolding of life, confident that the necessary conditions will arrive at the proper time. Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent. To cling is to resist this truth. To release is to harmonize with it. Detachment doesn't ask us to abandon goals or responsibility, but to soften the desire for absolute control. This surrender leaves space for spontaneity and freshness in each new day. In relationships, this principle is especially important. Genuine love is not the act of holding someone tightly, but of supporting their freedom. When we cling out of fear of losing another, suffering spreads on both sides. By contrast, a detached love offers care and presence, but without suffocating dominance. This creates healthier bonds filled with calm. It applies equally to material possessions. Having objects is natural. The problem arises when our happiness becomes dependent on them. Detachment teaches us to use and appreciate possessions without letting them define who we are. Thus, when they disappear, as eventually everything does, we're not shattered. In everyday life, small acts of detachment make a difference. Forgiving someone who wronged us, letting go of a worry outside our control, donating something not in use. Each act feels like opening a window to allow more fresh air within. Meditation provides direct practice. Thoughts rise and fade in succession. Trying to grip them makes us lost in the mind. Simply observing and allowing them to drift reveals that clarity and lightness are natural. Detachment is not indifference. On the contrary, it enables truer presence. Without chains of fear and desire pulling us away, we can return fully to what is here now. Detachment also awakens courage. By not needing to control every possible outcome, we become open to the unknown. This openness invites growth. Fear turns into trust, rigidity into lightness. In essence, detachment is the practice of freedom, releasing what cannot be managed, trusting the flow of events, making space for renewal. When the past is softened and the future is not clutched tightly, we find that the present alone is enough. Teaching 9. Trusting the flow of life. Trusting the flow of life is learning to rest inside the natural rhythm of things. We tend to push, hasten, and demand immediate results, but life follows its own tempo, untouched by our impatience. When we learn to trust its current, serenity appears. This teaching reveals that impatience is one of the main sources of anxiety. We want fruit the moment we plant a seed, forgetting that any harvest depends on time, care, and maturation. Just as an orchard doesn't bloom overnight, our projects and relationships need proper seasons to grow. Buddhism encourages us to loosen resistance and to participate in the flow, not battle against it. This doesn't mean folding arms and waiting passively. It means dedication without being suffocated by hurry. It's trusting that whatever result is meant to emerge will surface when conditions are ready. This trust dissolves countless unnecessary fears. How often do we worry about issues that never actually unfold? By confiding in life's rhythm, we stop rehearsing disasters in advance. In the present moment, we always discover resources to face what shows up when it shows up. The future usually takes care of itself once we meet the present with clarity. Trust reminds us of humility. Human beings are not the ultimate controllers. Vast forces operate beyond us. To pretend otherwise is to fight endlessly. Aligning with reality instead brings wisdom. Patience is a gift of this trust. Painful chapters become bearable when we remember that nothing endures forever. Even difficulties eventually dissolve. Furthermore, this trust transforms relationships. We stop demanding that others alter themselves on our schedule. Everyone has their own rhythm of growth. Recognizing that creates more respect and reduces conflict. In practice, trusting life's flow is similar to navigating a river, rowing frantically against the current wastes strength. Guiding the boat with steady arms while allowing the river to run naturally creates harmony. The same applies internally. Effort, yes, but not struggle against the inevitable. Meditation teaches this simply. Breathing is spontaneous. You don't need to push air in or force it out. It flows naturally and sustains life without your control. Observing this closely shows that the very act of being alive already depends on rhythms larger than you. This direct observation breeds trust. This attitude is not passivity. In fact, it is liberation. By not clamping down anxiously, opportunities appear more clearly. Sometimes, what seemed like a delay was exactly the right timing. When we place faith in the rhythm of life, we cultivate gratitude in the now instead of always pointing our hearts to what is missing. In essence, trusting the flow is an act of faith in life itself. Even without understanding every turn, we know the path is carrying us toward learning and growth. When we release the reins of anxiety, harmony naturally appears, and we can rest knowing that each lesson arrives at its appointed hour. Teaching 10. The practice of meditation. Meditation is like shelter in the middle of a noisy world. To sit quietly, close the eyes, and turn inward is a simple act, yet it opens a doorway. The mind begins to slow its frantic pace, and a peaceful space emerges. A peace that isn't borrowed from outside events but unfolds from within. Through meditation, we discover that thoughts don't have to be battled. They're like clouds moving across the sky, appearing, shifting, dissolving. The mistake lies in treating every thought as a command or absolute truth. When we learn to observe without judgment, their grip softens and freedom appears. Buddhism explains that meditation is not merely a relaxation method, but a path of transformation. It helps us see reality more clearly, stripped of distortions created by speed and emotion. With that clarity comes wiser reactions and more balanced choices. Regular practice also naturally deepens compassion. As the mind quiets, the heart opens, becoming tender toward others and toward oneself. Meditation strengthens resilience. Instead of panicking during hardship, we breathe and host the moment with steadiness. This inner calm makes us capable of facing sorrow, uncertainty, or even loss without collapsing. What's powerful is how meditation spills into ordinary gestures. Listening fully during a conversation, eating slowly and tasting each bite, walking aware of the ground beneath your feet. Daily acts are no longer routine. They deepen into experiences of presence. Another common misunderstanding: meditation is not about erasing thoughts or creating a blank mind. It's about relating to what arises without clinging. Like watching a river flow freely, its beauty is in motion, not in freezing it. Between an impulse and a reaction, meditation creates a small but powerful pause. In that pause is true freedom. Meditation also improves communication. Words chosen from awareness carry less impulsiveness, less harm. They become more healing, grounded, and compassionate. Silence cultivated in practice echoes in speech. Over time, compassion expands universally. In meditation, we recognize the shared journey of all beings, each battling both pain and joy. This recognition plants the wish to help carry the collective burden, translating into real acts of kindness in daily life. The connection with nature becomes stronger as well. Sitting quietly outdoors, observing wind, water, or stars, we remember we are part of something bigger. That awareness invites harmony with Earth itself. Meditation also loosens the need for excessive control. During practice, thoughts arrive regardless of our will. By accepting this natural flow, we extend the same attitude toward outer events. Life is less intimidating when we stop trying to rule everything. On a spiritual level, meditation reveals a sense of mystery and reverence. No matter one's religion, it brings intimacy with the very essence of existence. Clarity, compassion, humility grow here, like a plant unfolding slowly but surely toward sunlight. Ultimately, consistent practice transforms us. The change is not overnight, but gradual, like a flower blooming silently. We become calmer, more patient, more compassionate, more present. And the most beautiful part, the inner serenity cultivated radiates outward, touching everyone around us, just as one candle can ignite many others. There have traveled through 10 Buddhist teachings, pointing toward the art of letting go of worry, accepting impermanence, loosening expectations, detaching from thoughts, focusing on what can be controlled, cultivating gratitude, embracing the unchangeable, living with compassion, practicing detachment, trusting life's flow, and grounding in meditation. Together they remind us that peace is not a failed promise hiding out in the future. It is available here, now, in how we breathe and choose to live. By practicing these principles, we uncover joy in simplicity, find strength in acceptance, and nurture a compassion that transforms us and our world.